we're at the point right now where the only control mechanism is the Iranians. They make the political decision and they will have nuclear weapons. Now, what should be happening, because this is the point I was trying to make, nobody in the world, including Iran, wants Iran to have nuclear weapons. Why did Iran join the NPT? Why did they agree to safeguards agreements? When you join the NPT, you agree to safeguards agreements. It allows you to have enrichment capability. It allows you to do certain things related to peaceful nuclear programs, but you're not allowed to have nuclear weapons. Iran has said we, by law, can't have nuclear weapons. I want to remind everybody out there that Iran has committed by law, by treaty, to not having nuclear weapons. So if there is an Iranian nuclear weapons program, it's in violation of international law, a law that Iran willingly signed into. So let's just keep things in perspective. Russia just signed a strategic agreement with Iran that it has a military aspect to it. The Russians don't want Iran to have a nuclear weapon. That's why Russia is a part of the JCPOA. The Chinese have a strategic relationship with the Iranians. They don't want Iran to have a nuclear weapon. Nobody wants Iran to have a nuclear weapon. And should Iran decide to have a nuclear weapon, they will immediately become international pariahs. Immediately. And the Iranians know this. And so this is why I believe that, and Trump has hinted, Trump has a tendency to stick out his chest and say things while he's working for a different solution. He did that with the North Koreans, and I think he's doing that with Iran. He said some interesting things yesterday. Somebody asked him about a plan to bomb Iran with the Israelis. He said, what the hell are you talking about? You don't even know what you're talking about, which is true because they don't. And then the other thing he said is, I'm not looking for a war with Iran right now. What I'm looking for is to allow Iran to trade and to get back into the world. But in order to do that, there can't be a nuclear weapons program. I've said this for some time now. Iran's strategic direction is not towards confrontation with Israel. Now, I know there's a lot of hardliners in Iran, and there's a lot of anti-Israeli sentiment around the world. It is counting on Iran confronting Israel. That's not in Iran's interests. And it's not me saying this. It's the Iranian president. It's the Iranian supreme leader. They aren't looking for a fight. Now, the Iranian nuclear program has taken on a critical aspect to it because of the failure of the West to live up to its obligations under the JCPOA, the Joint Comprehensive Plan of Action. It's particularly since the United States withdrew, we're not a party to it, so it doesn't matter. But then we threatened Europe with secondary sanctions should they comply with their obligations under the JCPOA to engage in trade relations. And Europe has buckled to American pressure. The Iranians have called them out on their failure to comply. And then Iran has implemented 2 paragraphs that were negotiated into the agreement by the United States so that we could snap back sanctions, you see, because we're so smart. And we said that the Iranians are going to be the ones to break this agreement. So we got to be able to snap back sanctions without penalties. And the Iranians went, okay. And our negotiators were all like, man, we're really good. Now, what Trump is saying is he's willing to break with that past. So now you're an Iranian. Ask yourself, what are you going to do? I mean, you can puff out your chest all you want, guys. Really. Yeah. I respect the fact that you can say, we're going to have a nuclear weapon. We'll blow you off the earth. I'm not proud of that. People always hear me say, they go, oh my God, you're such a warmongering American. I'm just stating the fact, guys. We will blow Iran off the face of the earth. There will be nothing left of Iran. Nothing. Is that really the direction Iran wants to go? To play nuclear war with the United States? I mean, it has to be no. The Iranians aren't suicidal. And right now they're at a point where it makes no sense to have a nuclear weapon because it's not about balancing off against Israel anymore. Donald Trump is stepping in a way the United States has never stepped in before, saying, we insist. It's not on behalf of Israel that we can't have it. We insist. I insist. And he's going to be president for the next 4 years. So I think the Iranians are looking at that saying, okay, but he's opened the door. There's a negotiation path here. And I think the Iranians are going to take it because they don't want a nuclear weapon. I just want to remind people that all the people out there thumping their chest saying, Iran's got to get a nuclear weapon to do this, that, and the other thing. No, they don't. First of all, respect Iran for a moment, please. Respect the fact that the Iranians have made a political decision that they aren't going to have a nuclear weapon, that they don't want to have a nuclear weapon. So all you warmongers out there who want Iran to have a nuclear weapon so they can blow Israel off the face of the earth, it isn't going to happen. Iran doesn't exist. to solve the Arab problem of the Israeli-Palestinian conflict. That's not Iran's purpose in life. They're there to help the Palestinians, but Iran's not going to commit national suicide to destroy Israel. That's not Iran's number one reason to exist. Today, because Iran hasn't violated the agreement, it's not Iran that's violated. Today, they can produce 3 to 5 nuclear devices in a matter of days or weeks. They have the ability to, if they make the political decision, to enrich sufficient uranium for 3 to 5 nuclear devices within a matter of days, at least for the initial ones, weeks for the 5. That's the reality. And Trump has said this is unacceptable. And frankly speaking, from a global perspective, Trump is 100% correct. Don't tell me there's not a lot of bad blood between Iran and the United States. I want peace between Iran and the United States, but let's not pretend that it's been a wonderful little rosy relationship. It's been a history of violence on both sides. And now we have a situation where Iran has fast forwarded all the things that are supposed to be controlled on the timeline, regulated by what are called sunset clauses. Iran is just blown through those. Today they have modern centrifuges with high rates of enrichment, enriching more material than they were supposed to be able to retain. So they have the ability today to rapidly produce, 3 to 5 nuclear weapons within the JCPOA was supposed to have a 1-year breakout window, meaning that 1 year after the Iranians said we're not playing, it would take them 1 year to get enough fissile material to make one device. Iran has joined BRICS. Iran is looking towards economic development. Iran is looking to a brave new world where relations between nations are defined by economic terms, not military terms. And Donald Trump, I think, is going to offer Iran a pathway there. Whether it works or not, I don't know. But there's a lot of talk right now, irresponsible talk, that Iran is going to build nukes, that the United States is going to join with Israel to attack Iran. That's not the direction that either nation wants to go. And I think if we give each nation free rein, you'll see that they'll pick a path towards peace, not war. So I think, and this is where a lot of Iranians get mad at me, but I understand where you're coming from. I understand your sentiment, but I think Iran's going to give up its nuclear program, at least key aspects of its nuclear program, in exchange for peace. And people say, well, how could Iran ever trust the United States? That's not your damn business unless you're an Iranian, okay? And if you're an Iranian, you have to trust your government to do its bidding. I will tell you this, that the Iranian government, in planning for the JCPOA, knew the United States was going to cheat. So it didn't come to as a surprise. The supreme leader, I remember the directions he gave, the negotiators, he gave the parliament and everybody. He said, prepare, we're going to go forward with this, but prepare for when the Americans cheat. Prepare for what we're going to do at that time. So they knew the Americans were going to cheat. But the cheater was Barack Obama. It was Barack Obama who negotiated the JCPOA in bad faith. We know this because in April of 2015, 3 months before the JCPOA was signed, he gave an interview to NPR where he said, yeah, the sunset clauses, once we get there, if Iran doesn't change its behavior, then we're going to take another look at this and maybe we're going to pull out. What do you mean change its behavior? Because Iran wasn't required to change its behavior, change anything by the JCPOA. Iran complied with every aspect of the JCPOA. Barack Obama was a liar because the American position was predicated on the lie that we could allow Iran to live normally in the world. We've had a regime change policy regarding Iran ever since those students went over the wall in the embassy in 1979. And that's been our policy, to change the regime. That's why this is why the CIA has an Iran Mission Center. Now, I think they may have closed it. But the Iran Mission Center was focused on regime change. In 2023, there was a regime change war being fought by the CIA and everybody else against the Iranian government in September. Remember that. When all the violence took place in the streets, that was a concerted effort led by the CIA to overthrow the Iranian government. 15 months standing toe-to-toe with the IDF, and fought the IDF to a standstill and indeed compelled the IDF to withdraw from Gaza. The IDF didn't win this war. Hamas won this war. And the Palestinian people showed they have the resilience and the right stuff to stick it out. They didn't do that for 15 months just to fold like a house of cards because Donald Trump says that America wants to turn Gaza into a golf course. So this is the stupidity. The interesting thing in all of the discussions that have been had, Not once anybody say, well, what do the Palestinian people think about this?
Right.
What about their vote? Nobody mentioned Hamas, as if Hamas doesn't exist. Hamas not only exists, it's stronger than it has ever been politically because of the victory it won over the Israelis. And the Gazans of Palestine, they're not going to give up this land. You saw 1 million of them lined up to go back into northern Gaza, a wasteland. They know that, but that's their home. That's their land. And Donald Trump's not going to take it from them. I don't think Hamas is going anywhere. And in fact, the more we oppose them, the stronger they get. I've always said the best way to deal with Hamas, I said this back in the 1990s to senior Israelis, is sit down at the table and negotiate with them, because that instantly makes Hamas a responsible player that has to now take the negotiation seriously. The best thing Donald Trump could do right now is send a special envoy to Gaza to meet with Hamas, to sit down and say, okay, you are the leaders now. What is your solution? If you don't have a solution, I'll come up with one. What is your solution? And let's hear it. But because then that forces Hamas to stop being the resistance movement and start being a political movement that is responsible to the needs and wants of the people on the international stage. But nobody seems to want to go that route. Not in the United States, not in Israel, not around the world. And again, the Palestinians get the vote. They're the only ones that get the vote. You don't get a vote. The president doesn't get a vote. The Israelis tried to vote, but they lost. The only people that get a vote are the Palestinians. And right now, they voted with their feet, meaning they are planting their feet squarely on the ground. And, you can throw labels around all she wants. Iranian backed, this, that, and the other thing. They're the victors. And to the victors go the spoils. Now, does the United States want to take Hamas on and fight them? That's a different issue altogether. It would be a war of choice. Hamas doesn't pose a threat to us at all. We're sticking our nose in somebody else's business. That nose of the other side, Israel, got broken badly. Marines don't get to judge the constitutionality of the order given to them by the commander-in-chief. That's the job of Congress. Now, if they're told to murder people, to bomb innocent civilians and all that, they won't do that. That's an unlawful order. But to be given an order to occupy a piece of territory, take control of the territory, and move a population. Look, we did it in Vietnam. We would move South Vietnamese people out of villages into safe areas. Is it immoral? Yeah. Is it illegal? No. But I don't think the Marines want to do that. And I would hope that the Commandant of the Marine Corps and all the combat. But look, the Secretary of Defense isn't a combat commander. He is the head of the Department of Defense. But the people who lead the troops on the ground, who command the troops, who are responsible for the actions of the troops, I would hope every single one of them, the behind closed doors, would say, Mr. President, this is not a mission that's suitable for American troops. This is a mission, actually, if you look at it, every aspect of this mission is setting us up to fail. Mr. President, we don't want to fail. We won't lose, Mr. President. We will kill everybody on the ground. That's what we do. You don't want us to do that, Mr. President, because it will not reflect back good on you or on the Corps or on the country. Please don't make us do this, Mr. President. There's got to be a better solution.
And what
I
will
hope
happen?
that's what they would tell him. These people spent, physically relocating 1.8, 1.9 million people against their will. You're going to have to go in, Mr. Trump, and kill 20, 30,000 Hamas fighters who are underground. They're not giving up. Egypt's not taking them. Egypt already said, we're not taking resistance fighters. Jordan's not going to take them. The Hamas guys are there. You're going to have to kill them all, Mr. President. Are you ready to do that? This will be a battle unlike anything the American military's fought in modern history. Think a combination of Stalingrad and Iwo Jima, hell above ground, hell below ground, tunnels and ruins, and people who have been fighting there for 15 months know it inside and out. Our troops go in and don't know anything. We're very aggressive. We'll pursue, we'll close with and destroy, but they're going to kill a whole bunch of us in the process. Donald Trump doesn't get a vote here. I don't know who he thinks he is. He thinks he can come in. Gaza is not Israel's to divide up and give away. It doesn't belong to Israel. Donald Trump can't come in and say, it belongs to me now. That's what he just said. It belongs to America. On whose authority? Donald Trump's authority? He can't take it from Israel. Israel tried to take it. They got their asses handed to them by Hamas, who's still there, by the way. Tens of thousands of them, heavily armed, still with an intact tunnel system. Donald Trump wants to send American troops there to dig them out. Same thing will happen. They'll die. They won't win. Hamas will prevail. What is he proposing? He's talking about ethnically cleansing 1.8 million people, Palestinians. That's their land. That's their home. Who is he to take that away from them? Who is he to decide what beautiful life they should live? This is the most arrogant nonsense I've ever heard in my entire life. And this is going to be a disaster, because I don't see the Egyptians caving. I don't see the Jordanians. The Jordanians can't. Jordan already has 60% of its population is Palestinians. And you start injecting more, it's going to create unrest, resentment, and the king could find himself dragged by the street through the street until dead. That's what happened to the last Hashemite king in Iraq. Remember, he's a Hashemite. He's not a Jordanian. He's a Saudi. Saudi imposed on the people of Jordan by the British. The Bedouin tribes of Jordan, the Palestinians of Jordan, they're not going to put up with this. In Egypt, you think Sisi's going to last? If the Palestinians come in, you start to create, there's going to be disruption, unrest. Egypt's already a state that, they contain the population only through, this autocratic dictatorial military government. So we're going to bring down Egypt, bring down Jordan, the unintended consequences of bad policy. And this could disrupt the entire region. The Palestinians don't want to move. Now, we're saying that Egypt is going to open the gates and let the Palestinians in. Now, are getting mixed signals out of Egypt. First, they said, hell no. People haven't thought this thing through at all. Donald Trump hasn't thought it through at all. I mean, this turned into this was a real estate deal that Jared Kushner came up with. He's behind this whole thing. And here's the interesting thing. Not one word about Jared Kushner during the campaign. Everybody familiar with the topic knows that Jared Kushner did talk about, this is good property that could be developed. And then they never heard another word from him. Silence. Why? Because this was the plan. Trump was going to spring on the whole time. He just didn't want to talk to it about anybody because he didn't want to create controversy. But now he's president. Now he's brought Netanyahu in. And he's committing us down a path that America needs to reflect on this, because this will define us for whatever's left of our pathetic existence as a nation state. This will define us. Are we a force of good? Or are we a force of evil? I'd like to believe we're a force of good. I'd like to believe we have a moral compass. I'd like to believe the American people would never allow their soldiers to go in and commit ethnic cleansing on a scale this big and commit murder on a scale this big. But I could be proven wrong. Gaza is Israel's problem to solve, and Israel couldn't solve it, and Israel can't solve it. So what Trump did is said, I'm going to solve it. So again, I'm not here to defend Trump at all. I'm trying to put this in perspective, because otherwise you'd want to get this guy committed. There has to be a method to his madness. One has to search for that. And what I will say is this: no one else has a solution. And no one else has offered a solution. Everybody who has said no to what Trump is saying, and that's the right answer, by the way. No, you can't do that. No one's come up and said, no, but here's an alternative. Here's something else. So I think what Trump has done is put something so outrageous out there that it's going to compel people to have to come up with a solution, to have to come up with, well, if we don't want to do this, let's do this. And I'm talking about the Arab world. I'm talking about Europe. I'm talking about Russia, China. I'm talking about everybody. Nobody. What Trump has done is come in there and said, you can't solve the Gaza. That's literally what he said. He said, this man next to me can't solve this problem, so I'm going to solve it. I'm the problem solver. America's the problem solver. Now, we're not. We don't have a solution, but it's such an audacious, ridiculous proposition he's put out there that it will, I think, in his mind, compel. Look, Trump is a negotiator from a business standpoint, not from a diplomatic standpoint. And if you're sitting down in a business negotiation, a big real estate deal, and you're at the table, and the other party says no, then they leave. They're gone. They're finished. What Trump is looking for is the counter offer. That's the way the businessman thinks, the New York State realtor. He's come in with an outrageous proposal. But people still want that property. They still want to deal with it. So they're going to say, no, but here's a counter offer. Now they have something to work with. And I think that's what Trump is trying to do here, because there's no way in God's earth does he follow through with any aspect of this, I believe, because it would just put America as one of the greatest war criminals in modern history. And that's not the image the American people want. So what Trump, I believe, is trying to do here is solve the Israeli-Palestinian conflict. Now, there's nothing finesse about him. He's not going to do business as usual. But I believe that Trump was basically putting Netanyahu on notice. You have failed. You have not solved the Gaza problem. Israel doesn't have a solution. I do, and this is it. And it's an outrageous solution. It's something that makes no sense morally, legally, ethically, you name it. There's not anything about it that makes any sense except he, on record in the White House with Netanyahu standing by his side, shamed Netanyahu. Netanyahu's not happy about this. This is an embarrassing moment.